Yeah, please go on. Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. First of all, I want to greet Garib Mehdev, Furgun Hajiev, and Lee Kalkod. Thanks guys for your useful speech. So let me to introduce myself briefly. My name is Elshad Agaev. Let me to turn off my camera. So my name is Elshad Agaev. I am 33 years old almost. I'm a software engineer with 10 years of experience. I currently work remotely for a company based in Palo Alto, California. I was also one of the co-founders of Popular Coding School in Azerbaijan. What can I say else? That's enough about me, I think. Let me to describe the goal of my speech today. Goal of my speech is to give some advices to students of computer science and junior developers, even experienced developers that are not aware of strength of open source world. Maybe right now everybody here is know what is open source, and most of us are professionals with a strong background. But I'm pretty sure that later many students will watch at the record of our conference. That's why I guess my speech will be useful for them and will give them some idea from where to start to build their career in the future. Okay. I want to touch one of the actual problem. Unfortunately, there is a huge gap between universities and companies. What does it mean? It means that students after the graduation want to find a good job immediately, but they cannot. On the other hand, companies complain that it is too hard to find the appropriate developer. It's like a kind of paradox. One of them cannot find a job, other one cannot find a worker. Strange as it may seem, but both of them are paradoxically right. Because getting a college or university degree is usually a good idea, but it doesn't really tell employers what you can do. The business work environment is radically different than school in most cases, as we know. In my opinion, the main reason of this problem is that most companies don't want to lose money hiring a worker with zero experience. But many universities cannot give such experience to students at all. That's why students after the graduation have to spend many years for passing through long internship period for a very small salary or even for free. But how to solve this issue? The answer is contributing open source projects. Okay, what do we get in return contributing open source projects? One of the biggest benefits is access to huge amount of high quality and relevant information, plus practical tasks. I want to talk about benefits for students. During their education period, they can contribute to open source projects and gather a lot of experience and knowledge that university just cannot give them, is not able to give them such experience, knowledge. First of all, they will face real world projects. Also, they will see the real implementation of things that they learned before theoretically, such as implementation of algorithms, data structures, and etc. Another problem of newbies who didn't face real project before is they don't know from what to start to build full application. They will understand during the contribution, they will understand how to think like an engineer and to build product from scratch. Also, contribution forced them to investigate, and learn a lot of things that never heard before. In conclusion, I want to say that 4 or 5 years are enough for students to study and at the same time to build their career, to become at least mid-developer with strong background. And you have to remember that, and they have to remember that participating in an open source ecosystem is definitely access to huge amount high quality information. You get access to huge amount of practical real world examples. On the other hand, you will fill your portfolio, get useful connections with another developers around the world. In the future, I'm pretty sure that these connections will help you to grow in your career faster than others. So the second benefit is non-empty portfolio. To prove their experience, developers must have a good portfolio. This is the only way that company believes your experience. So for students, as I said before, the second benefit of participating in open source community is a great chance to enlarge their portfolio. Third benefit is useful habits. The contribution for students are give them good habits like discipline and hard working skills that will help them to become most wanted developer in the future. Another thing, open source teaches you how to collaborate with other much more experienced developers, as I said before, in a familiar environment. Next slide. And developers, what kind of benefits can they get? Contribution, first of all, contribution will let them to gain their experience and learn a lot of new things. Another thing I would love to add, it's a great opportunity for them who's seeking for something new and a good way to get out of comfort zone. For example, you could be a super cool developer in your office or company, but are you smart enough to prove it? Open source gives answers to this question somehow. Next benefit you can get is coding standards and best practices from open source. Another benefit is teamwork and collaboration. And one more and very important benefit, in my opinion, is access to experts. You know that smart IT companies invest a lot of money in order to spend a few days with an expert in a particular technology. Also, many developers around the world, it's a reality nowadays. Many developers around the world that have no US citizenship dreams to get job offers from top companies in the United States. Contribution can help them to attract interest of top companies and get job offers. Let me to tell you a real story briefly. Many years ago, my friend has started to find issues in MySQL database and report them. Later, I have also joined him and started to fix that issues in the source code of MySQL. And once upon a time, my first fix was accepted and released in the 5.5 version of MySQL. That was unbelievable feeling for a young developer like me, thinking that my code runs on the millions of servers. That's amazing feeling. With big motivation, we wrote the second fix, the third fix, and etc. And later, both of us got job offers from US companies, and still where we work with them. And the third benefit is to build your own business. Maybe experienced developers that are tired already and don't want to work for others anymore can build their own business in the open source world, or start just their own open source project to make the world a better place. I can give hundreds of examples of successful business and products, but on the next slide, I will just add some of them. For example, Mac OS is built on FreeBSD operating system, Unix system. Red Hat is also using open source. Red Hat is also using Linux kernel. Hazelcast is successful project, open source project in California. Hadoop, Android, even Telegram Messenger is open source. You can find its source code in GitHub. Percona is also company that use source code of MySQL. They have boosted MySQL and earning money, pretty good money. Open source helps also to grow cloud computing ecosystem faster. System administrators can build also their career in cloud computing thanks to open source. For example, OpenStack is a free open standard cloud computing platform, mostly deployed as infrastructure as a service in both public and private clouds, where virtual servers and other resources are made available to users. Here I've put the video from the Cairo OpenStack Summit in Paris. Panelists talks about how to build career with OpenStack. It's very interesting. Later you can download this slide. I hope Shahriar will share with you, and you can click and watch.
All will be in GitHub, all the sessions in PDF format. Yeah.
Okay. Kubernetes is also open source product of Google company. I've put here summit of Docker in San Francisco. You can also watch at this. I guess it will help you to get some idea. Here I've put some top 5 open source network monitoring tools. It means that network administrators also can take their benefits from open source world. Here are 5 of them. These blue texts are clickable. You can click and go to the main page of this project. They are also open source. I want to skip them because I don't want to waste time. Here are top 5 open source programming languages like Python, R language for data scientists, Node.js, Rust for performance and safety, Golang for faster server application, and etc. Students can ask about prerequisites, requirements, how to join open source community. What do they have to know before the joining to the community? First of all, my advice is that they have to know Linux operating system, at least working experience as a user. They can install one of the distributions of Linux very easily and use daily use it. And the second desired skill is coding skills. You can learn easily one of the most popular programming language like Python or something else. And third skill is experience with Git technology. Sorry. But what is open source software? I took a short description from Wikipedia. Open source software is a type of computer software in which source code is released under a license in which the copyright holder grants users the rights to study, change, and distribute the software to anyone and for any purpose. Open source software may be developed in a collaborative public manner. This is a description taken from Wikipedia. There is a thing like this, open source eating the world. 78% of companies runs open source software around the world. And 63% of them participates in a development and improvements of open source projects. Most companies from different spheres have to use softwares and tools to be able to compete and stay in the market. To decrease costs, companies use competitive open source products. That's why we can say with confidence that open source is eating the world. Most companies from different, big companies open the source code of their products to grow and improve them faster. Like Google, for example, Kubernetes, TensorFlows are open source products of Google company. Open Compute, HHVM, Open Cellular are the open source product of Facebook. Meses, Aurora, and etc. are products of Twitter. And even Netflix opened his source code of his product, Netflix OSS suite. What's the next? Okay. Big companies like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft are aggressively competing to change the direction of industry. This competition has recently become more prominent, especially in the field of artificial intelligence. This chart contains numbers of GitHub stars. GitHub stars are better describing a positive competition and improvements between those companies. You can see growth of stars. I want to introduce some open source programs of big companies. For example, Google open source platform. Let's see what's there. Do you see Google has very interesting motto here? bringing all the value of open source to Google and all the resource of Google to open source. From the Google open source platform, you can find more than 2,000 projects. Here they are wrote about it. And from the projects section, do you see the interface is beautiful and user-friendly. You can change the view. You can search, you can filter projects by category or even by language and find easily appropriate projects to start to contribute. Okay, Facebook has also open source platform. Their platform is also user-friendly. You can easily find projects from this platform, appropriate projects, and start to contribute. Here are links of these projects to the source code. What's the next? Intel Open Source Technology Center. Let's look at this faster. And I don't like their interface, but it's also somehow user-friendly. You can find a lot of open source projects that Intel engineers are involved in. And SanDisk also had a lot of open source project. I don't want to waste time. I want to skip this things. Startup open source programs, I will skip them also. Let me to describe shortly. Box has open source products. You can, if you wish, you can contribute them. Dropbox, Uber, GitHub itself. Even you can contribute GitHub for their improvements. GitHub opened his source codes in its own platform. Twitter has a lot of open source project, even Microsoft. You know that before Microsoft fought with open source community, but now this company also supports Microsoft community. There is a quite interesting projects on their platform. Even governments also supporting open source community. For example, government digital service is a unit of government of the United Kingdom's Cabinet Office tasked with transforming the provision of online public services. But recently they have made two of its core repositories temporarily private. Unfortunately, I hope they will open it very soon. I want to talk about To-Do Group. To-Do Group, their motto is talk openly, develop openly. What's To-Do Group? If your company release open source project, if you'd like to improve interaction with the open source community to better manage and run your projects, then you have to join To-Do Group. To-do group is an open group of companies who want to collaborate on practices, tools, and other ways to run successful and effective open source projects and programs. Let's look at this faster. Very simple design they have. Here is guides how to join to this group, community. They have a lot of members like Facebook, Dropbox, Amazon, Bloomberg, and etc. Open source internship programs. Open source community considers students also and helps them to pass through paid internship during their summer break. One of them, Google Summer of Code. Google Summer of Code is a global program focused on bringing more student developers into open source software development. Students work with an open source organization on a 3-month programming project during their break from school. Participates more than 100 open source companies from Apache to Mozilla. Also, it's a paid internship. They pay for your trip also if you are not in United States. Also, good. Okay, moment. Open source community also considers pre-university students. Google Coding is a contest to introduce pre-university students to open source software development. Since 2010, over 8,100 students from 107 countries have completed work in the contest. How it works, in the fall, Google chose 25 open source organizations to participate. The organizations create a large list of short tasks for students to work on. Tasks are categorized as code, documentation, training, outreach, research, quality assurance, or design. Outreach is also open source program, internship program. Outreach internships are open to applicants around the world. Interns work remotely and are not required to move. Interns are paid a stipend of approximately 6,000 USD for the 3 months internship. Interns have a 500 USD travel stipend to attend conferences or events. Interns work with experienced mentors from open source communities. Outreach internship projects may include programming, user experience, documentation, illustration, graphical design, data science, project marketing, user advocacy, or community event planning. Next slide. Oops. Open source community considered women also. Rails Go Summer of Code is a global fellowship program for women. Students receive a 3-month scholarship to work on existing open source projects and expand their skill set. And finally, I want to give two important advices for students. First advice is they can create open source clubs at their university and work on several interesting projects together. And they have to always be aware of and attend meetings in their country or neighbor countries. Here are the example. Open Source Club of Ohio State University. It can give some idea how to organize these clubs. And the second advice is attend open source conferences. But if you don't have enough money to go to these conferences, then I have put here 3 links. Also, you can research yourself for financial assistance programs to travel to those conferences. And thank you for your attention. That's all. If you have some questions, you can write me directly. I will reply as soon as possible. That's all. Shako?
Thank you, Elshad. Thank you so much. That's a really great content, and especially for the junior people who is at school and stuff, trying to see why open source and all this stuff. Definitely, that's one of the session you have to check and go through all the links and all the slides, and yeah, in case you can always also reach Elshad. He's also in our Slack community channel. And yeah, thank you so much, Elshad. Appreciate.
That was
really, there were a lot
great pleasure to participate here.
Because just one point, Google Summer of Code from Azerbaijan, I was the one in, I don't know, like 17 years of the time it was going. But the main issue was that not because I was good, it was because nobody knows about this kind of program. I think the
exactly.
links shared, that's a great webinar that the junior students should see what's going and where it's going, and definitely try to apply. And we will try as best within our efforts. Thank you so much, Elshad. We are moving
Thank you.
Our fourth session. Malik, sorry about that. I know that some people joined and left because of the timing. That from our side, I'm so sorry about it. And yeah, but Malik, can you hear us?